So cost is basically the cost of purchase, and this is the purchase cost. And then we have the cost of conversion. We are going to discuss that thing in a while. So I have the breakdown of the cost of purchase and the cost of conversion, for example, labor and things like that. And then we have other costs to bring the asset, bring the inventory in the present location and condition. So these are the three things which becomes the part of the cost. And then we have the net realizable value. Simply you can say what net amount you get from the sale of that inventory. Like what is the estimated selling price of it? Is there any further cost of completion that you need to spend in order to sell the inventory? Is there any other cost that is necessary to make the inventory a sale? Is there any other cost? So basically the formula is the estimated selling price. Let me just write it. Estimated selling price and then we deduct two things from it. The two things are estimated cost of completion. Like for example, like you have the inventory and you need to spend something in order to bring that inventory in a saleable condition. So estimated cost of completion and then we have estimated cost necessary to make sale. And then you get the resulting figure, which is the NRV. So estimated selling price, like for example, in the market, at what amount usually you can sell the inventory. And then estimated cost of completion, is there any amount you need to spend before you sell the inventory? Is there any amount that is necessary, for example, the agent's fee, the commissions you need to pay in order to sell the inventory? So when you deduct all these amounts, you get the net amount which you will get from the sale of the inventory. That is known as the NRV. So this NRV is going to be compared with the cost. So the cost of purchase plus cost of conversion and the other cost. Now we have the details of it. So the cost of purchase means purchase price plus import duties and taxes. And remember, these are non-refundable duties and non-refundable taxes. If there are any refundable duties and refundable taxes, then you are not going to include that thing in the cost of the inventory because obviously you are getting paid for it. You will getting refund. And then we have the transportation cost, the handling cost, and then you also discuss the trade discounts and rebates because you take the net amount of purchases. If there are any discounts, so you deduct that amount. Then we have the cost of conversions. So what are these cost of conversions? So cost directly related to the units of production, for example, direct material, direct labor. And then we have the fixed production overheads. For example, the cost of factory and management administration, and then variable production overheads, for example, indirect materials and labor. But remember, these should be allocated on the systematic basis. So even the fixed production cost and even the variable production overheads, both of these are allocated to the cost of the, like for example, the fixed cost is a huge cost. You cannot assign all that cost to one piece of inventory or one unit of inventory. Obviously, you need to allocate it on the systematic basis. And you have done this thing many times in your costing paper, so you understand this thing very well. And then other cost is to bring the asset in the present location and condition. Now, what amounts you are not going to capitalize in the cost of the inventory? So that means these are excluded. And when we say excluded, so these are not part of the asset cost and these are expensed out. So these are the abnormal costs such as wasted material. Now this is your fault that the material is wasted, so you cannot capitalize that thing. The storage cost, for example, this is one of the specific principle of IAS-2. You cannot capitalize the storage cost. Similarly, general and administrative overheads. And similarly, we have the selling cost. Remember, there's a difference between fixed production overheads because they are related to the production. We're not talking about these. Fixed production overheads are allocated. We're talking about the general and administrative overheads, which are incurred irrespective of the production. Similarly, the selling cost, it is included in the NRV calculation, but you cannot include that in the cost of the inventory. Okay, now this is another important thing that you need to understand. That is the cost of goods sold, the cost of sales, in fact, in short, what we call. So when we talk about the statement of the profit or loss, so first of all, we have the revenue figure, the sales figure within the statement of profit or loss. And then from the revenue, we deduct the cost of sales or the cost of goods sold. So cost of goods sold or the cost of sales, whatever you call it. The formula for it is that you take the opening inventory and then you add the purchases and then you deduct the closing inventory and you get the figure which is the cost of goods sold. This is the simplest formula. You have already seen it when we were doing the financial statement thing, the final account thing. The important thing are the double entries, how we take these costs to the statement of profit or loss. So because when we take these costs to the statement of profit or loss in the cost of goods sold calculation, we perform the double entries. We take them from the ledgers and we put them into the statement of profit or loss. So there are double entries for it. So these double entries are like we are taking all these figures into the cost of goods sold calculation. So double entries are for the opening inventory. So you see the opening inventory is inventory at the start of the year and that will be used in the production process. So what we do is we debit the statement of profit or loss and we credit the inventory account. Then we have the purchases. So when we have the purchases account, we take it to the statement of profit or loss and then we have the purchases account credited. Because the inventory and the purchases are basically opening inventory and the purchases. Basically, they are consumed in the production. So that is why you see them as a credit entry. Like opening inventory, they will be first used in the production because we are having the opening balance. So we use them in the production. So the credit opening inventory because it is no longer available when it is used in the production. And then we have the purchases. When we do the purchases, again, we take it to the production. So we credit the purchases account as well because we take it to the statement of profit and loss. But in the closing inventory, you see we have the debit inventory account because this inventory is remaining with us. So remember that the opening inventory and the purchases is a debit statement of profit or loss and credit inventory and credit purchases account. With the closing inventory, we have this inventory remaining with us. So that is why we debit the inventory account, and this debit inventory account is actually in the current assets as well. Like the closing inventory we have now is recorded as a current asset in the statement of financial position. So make sure you understand these double entries in substance. Opening inventory is debit statement of profit or loss and credit inventory because we consume it and we take it to the statement of profit or loss. Plus purchases, again, we credit the purchase account because that inventory is consumed and we take it to the statement of profit or loss. The closing inventory is remaining with us because this inventory is recorded as an asset in the statement of financial position and we credit the statement of profit or loss. So these double entries, three double entries are very, very important for the exam. Now, the other two things which students find confusing, although it's not. So I have simplified this concept for you. And now you can easily attempt your question if this carriage inwards and carriage outward thing is coming in the exam. Because examiner does not ask you the treatment usually. Examiner asks you what is the impact of this carriage inward and outwards on the calculation of the profit. So usually this understating, overstating thing are complex to deal with in the exam. So I've simplified it for you. So what about the carriages? So these carriages is actually the cost of transportation. If the purchaser pays the cost of transportation, that is known as the carriage inwards. If the supplier pays the carriage, then that is known as the carriage outwards. So if you are the purchaser, and you are bearing the carriage, you are paying the carriage, then that is carriage inward for you. If you are the seller and you bear the carriage, then that is carriage outward for you. So what is the treatment? Now this is the treatment as well as the impact on the profit. So this is the treatment. So simply it makes sense. When you are the buyer, you are the purchaser, and you pay the carriage inward cost. So that means it's your direct cost. So what you're going to do is add it to the cost of purchases in the statement of profit and loss. So you add this amount in the purchases because it's the cost that you're bearing to bring the inventory in the present location and condition. So added to the purchase, added to the cost of purchases in the statement of profit or loss, and therefore it affects the gross profit calculation. Remember, in the cost of sale calculation, the purchases are added. So if you are not adding this carriage inward in the purchase cost will be less. Let me just give you a flavor how you can deal this thing in the exam. For example, opening inventory is, let's assume, 200. Purchases are, let's assume, 400. And the closing inventory is 100. Now what is going to be the cost of sale? 200 plus 4 is 600 minus 100 gives you 500. Now what if in this 400 calculation you forgot to record the carriage inward of $50? So let's do that. 200, it was not 400, it was 450 because you forgot to record the carriage inwards. Now remaining will be the same. So 200 plus 450 means 650 and minus 100 means 550. So that means if you are not recording the carriage inward in the cost of the purchase, then the cost of sale will be understated, and similarly vice versa. So make sure you remember this concept. If the carriage inward is not recorded or carriage inward is understated, then what you're going to do is your cost of sales will be understated as well. So this is one of the important principles. You see, we did not include 50 in the 400 calculation, you got the cost of sales at 500. When you included that within the cost of the purchase, your cost of sale is 550. So the difference between these two shows you that the cost of sale will be understated if you are not recording the carriage inwards. Then we have the carriage outwards. When the supplier pays, for example, if you're a supplier and you bear the transportation cost. So if you are bearing this transportation cost, so this is a selling and distribution expense for you in substance. And it is therefore a cost which is deducted from the gross profit. So underneath the gross profit, we have these things in order to calculate the net profit. So we have the gross profit and then we have the expenses, which include the selling, distribution, administration. So we deduct these things from that. So basically underneath gross profit, you have the deduction of this carriage outwards. So make sure you understand this impact on profit thing very well for the exam.